Hi, and welcome to this session. Today we're going to be talking about how you can leverage your social media for personal branding and how you can build your social media presence. I'm so excited to be here and thank you so much for joining me. I'm also wearing my Hashnode merch to represent, but I'm that excited, so let's just jump right into it. I'm Judy. A self-taught developer. I actually switched careers during the pandemic. I'm a technical writer and content creator. I'm also working as a developer relations advocate. I happen to be a YouTuber and I speak a lot at events. If you scan this QR code, it's gonna send you to my socials and you can check them out. And of course, connect with me after this presentation is over. And make sure to hashtag Hashnode Bootcamp and tag me to know what your thoughts are in this presentation. Before we continue, we need to clarify some concepts. Let's talk a little bit about branding and online presence. In simple terms, we can define online presence as your digital footprint. It's everything you do online, all the activity and all the content that you post or do online. Now, branding, it's basically the idea or the identity that people associate with you. Let's just say if you post a lot of helpful content, people are gonna see your face and they're gonna assume that every content that you post is gonna help them somehow. Like, let's just say if you post a lot of tutorials, a lot of how to, at one point they're gonna be looking at your name on Google and looking for tutorials. So that's basically the brand that you build over time. And as you can see, what you do with your online presence can ultimately affect your branding. So, how can we start creating our online presence? First, we need to find a niche. And why is this so important? Because, and this is a quote, those that speak to many speak to none. So, what does this mean? It means that you need to find a niche. One or two topics that you love and that you are good at, and exploit them in a way that is beneficial for you. Now, this is any activity, any topic. Let's just say I'm a beginner coder, right? So my niche will be creating content for those who are also beginning, but let me make it more of a niche by focusing on tutorials about JavaScript, right? So there are for beginners on JavaScript. So that's an easy example on how you can find a niche. Of course, you can narrate down even more, and that's also suggested. But why are niches so important? Because they allow you to pursue what you care about. One or two topics that you are good at and that are passionate to you that you can actually explain to people. So let's just see a couple of benefits on having a niche. Ultimately, having a niche will get you discovered. Why? Because it helps you establish yourself as a reliable source. How can you do this? Well, by creating content, by interacting with other content creators, and by establishing yourself as someone that people go to when they have an issue around that topic. This will ultimately minimize the risk for companies who want to hire you. By having a niche, you will get discovered and also get job opportunities. And this is a little bit of my personal example. I started creating content around, like I said, JavaScript, open source, and source alike. I also filmed a couple of YouTube tutorials, and I was just really active in the community. That's how I got discovered by my first employer. I'm at a startup and they wanted me to be a dev rel for them. So ultimately that led into a job opportunity, my first job opportunity actually. But that didn't stop there because that also led me to my second job opportunity, that is the job that I have now, just by my social media presence. So in what other aspects does having a niche helps you? It helps you have new perspectives. You start connecting with a lot of people in that area. So you start learning by association, basically. You start seeing what they're building, you start being inspired, you start analyzing what the community wants best in that aspect. And by that, you get content ideas that will ultimately result in you giving back to the community. So, all of this, the only thing that matters is finding the right community instead of trying to reach to everyone. This will help you have better relationships and also increase your visibility By connecting with the community, and especially with the tech community, you're going to see new perspectives, be inspired, have job opportunities, and more just by putting yourself out there. So, now that we have like a common background, what are some blockers that might be stopping you from pursuing a social media journey? Now, the first one that is very common, I see it online, I see it on my DMs, people reach out to me and ask me about these specific topics. So let's talk a little bit more about them. Which platform should you be in? It doesn't really matter. Um, you should just know your way around it, you should like it, and it should be easy to pick up. And why these three characteristics are so important? Well, because ultimately you're gonna want to be consistent. There is no way you can grow on social media without consistency. So having a platform that you like and that you know how to use is gonna maximize the chances of you sticking to your social media plan. So when picking a platform, what are some things that you should keep in mind? These three things will make your life easier, and I promise. You own your own content. That being that if at some point in life you want to take all your content and post it somewhere else, nothing is preventing you from doing so. Another thing, you can easily get visibility on your post. You shouldn't send every single one of your followers a text or a post saying like, hey, I just posted this. No, the algorithm should easily pick up on new posts and push them forward. Also, it should be easy to create and edit content. This is because, especially in tech, things move really fast. And let's just say you make a blog post today, but like in a month, that blog post is outdated in some areas, but in some others, it's still useful. So you might want to go back and edit it whenever possible. So this is a really big one. This is something that everyone that is on social media might have seen. And it's like, do numbers matter? What the follower count, does that matter? No. Long story short, it doesn't. We all started with 0 followers, 0 engagement, 0 replies, 0 retweets, 0 likes, 0 everything, right? So everything that is like between a 0 follower account and a 100,000 follower account is this consistency and the type of content that you put out. And now, you should focus on numbers, but you should focus on the important type of numbers, like the ones that help you compare your growth to your previous self, the ones that help you see the community reactions and engagement to the content you're putting out, and also the ones that tell you what type of content the community wants, so you can start making them. So you should work on cultivating a niche audience interested in what you have to offer, instead of focusing on the numbers and the following count. And of course, it's really hard to start shouting at the void, but we all started there. But what are some things that might make it better? You shouldn't be shouting at the void. What are some tips for growing your account organically that I can give to you now? And these are actionable tips that you can do in like a month's period and see growth in your account. Of course, keep in mind that you should always portray your reality, because ultimately that's what makes you unique, and people connect with that uniqueness and that human touch that you have to bring to the community. So let's start by breaking this down. First, consistency, of course, but not any type of consistency. You have to be consistent, but with a purpose. What do I mean by this? By picking your niche, by picking some topics that you're really good at, start posting about that. If you want to grow your account, this actually helped me when I was starting on my Twitter journey. I was using relevant hashtags since I was just starting, since I was just learning. I will use code newbie, 100 days of code, code tips, and all of that. For example, for this bootcamp, you can use hashtag Hashnode Bootcamp, and you can connect with other individuals that are here taking this bootcamp and also grow your network. That's like the power of using hashtags, is that you connect with the same community that is going through the same thing that you're going through. Now, another very important topic is to optimize your social media profiles. What do I mean by this? Have a picture of yourself, of a human. Why? Because people connect with humans. If I see a picture of you as your profile picture, I know who I'm talking to. I know who I'm interacting with. And it's easier that way to start cultivating new relationships. It's also advised that you have the same profile picture and same banner across all your social media profiles. But of course, that depends on what you're trying to achieve with your social media. For example, if you're trying to come across as someone as an expert in your topic, of course, a consistency across all of your social media profiles is a must. Also, it will make it easier for the community to find you on other platforms, so that's also a plus. I, for example, have the same profile picture on all of my social media profiles. So let's continue. What do I mean by honesty? We go back to portraying your reality. Let's just say you should share your wins and also your fails. Humans connect more with the fails. And I know that sounds like very odd to say, but there is fondness that is formed with the struggle that is shared. And that sounds very deep, but it's not. It's about, for example, if I share that I'm struggling with a bug and I ask for help, and that brings the community together and brings like a very beautiful exchange of ideas. That's about being honest of your reality. That's being honest to yourself. You should always be human and transmit that in every post and help people connect with you that way. Also, it's totally normal if you get inspiration from other creators. That's totally fine. As long as you're not stealing content straight from that creator, you should always, for example, credit some ideas that you see online that are very original and you would love to take part in. It's totally okay, like I said, to get inspiration from other creators. Also, because we don't know everything, right? We don't know if my strategy today is gonna work. So don't be afraid to experiment. And this is very important, especially on different social media accounts. What works for TikTok might not work for Twitter or X. So do not be afraid to experiment, try new ideas to present content to your audience, and just make it a really fun process for you. Like I said previously, you should use a social media that you're really excited to create content on, right? Like it doesn't feel like a chore for you to wake up every day and have to create content there. And ultimately, start creating content that you like to see. Of course, feedback from the community is always welcome, but when you're starting and you have no idea what the community wants or the feedback that they're giving to you, what content do you create then? The one that you like to see. For example, when I was just starting, I will create content about JavaScript because I was struggling with JavaScript and I would love to see more guides on it. But guides that have little technical lingo because I came from a completely non-technical background. So having things being explained to you in a very colloquial way really helped me catch up and really helped me learn more about JavaScript as I was creating that content. And third, connection. Why is this important? Because you must interact with the community to know what works and how you can grow your social media account there. By connecting with other relevant accounts and reaching out to them for possible collaborations or just expressing your admiration to them, how they inspire some content of yours, or for example, how they help you solve that bug. You should also keep in mind that you should be okay with being seen. And this is something I really struggled when I was starting because I didn't want to present myself as someone struggling. I didn't want to share like my frustrations online. But by doing so, you're actually making it less of a burden on you and accepting help from the community. People might come up to you with issues, they might come up with you with bugs, with new thoughts, with new ideas, and you should be okay with that because it comes with the territory. You can also include visuals in the content that you put out. For example, on Twitter, share pictures on the things that you're working on, share pictures of this bootcamp, show the human side behind the content that you're making. Ultimately, you should always seek relationships, not just followers. Why? Because by building strong relationships, when you're, for example, struggling, looking for a job, those are the people that you're gonna reach out to. Those are the connections that are gonna help you move forward instead of the number of followers. That's what I meant when I said that numbers don't count. It's about the interactions that you have with those individuals. You should always remember that the number of followers are people. Those are the people that are following you, and you should be grateful that those individuals want to have you on their timeline. So the least we can do back is to seek relationships with them, to interact with their content, and interact ultimately with the community. Another tip for growing is to use trends. Currently, we have applications like TikTok and Twitter that make memes go viral. Right now, we're seeing an uprising on viral memes. So try using those trends to your advantage. Try adapting them to your niche and try experimenting with them and see what type of results they bring you. Like I said, it's all about trial and failure. So, how can we approach other creators? Because we're not gonna live in a bubble of social media. You're gonna interact with a lot of people. Also, it's important to notice that all of these tips can also be applied for when you're reaching out to HR about a job. So if you want, you can take a screenshot or a photo of this and and use it to your advantage. It's totally okay. So you should always keep in mind that when you've never spoken to that individual before, you should always provide context. So here, avoid empty hello. What do I mean by this? And we're gonna see some examples on the next slide. But by avoiding an empty hello, we need to mention something about them or their content. Or we can also specify the motive for reaching out. For example, instead of saying hello and wait for the reply, I can say, hello, I really like this that you're doing and I'm reaching out because of this, right? Put yourself in their shoes. Like when you're reaching out and you see a hey, and then they're gonna have to interact with another hey, and then how are you? I'm good, how are you? Like but try to minimize the time that they're gonna have to put into replying to a DM or like an email or whatever way that you use to approach the person. So it's also better for the people who is actually DMing, because right there you put the questions that you have, if you have any, and you specify the motive for reaching out, and they know why you're reaching out, and that's gonna make the relationship better because they know what to expect from that interaction. Of course, it also depends on the number of followers. We cannot always expect them to reply to every single DM, and this is more on those like really big sensational creators. I personally prefer it when I get like a hello and like they specify the motive for reaching out and that's it. But yeah, let's continue. So you should reach out to them in their platform, in the platform that they're the most active, okay? And this is really important because then you're not only gonna make it better for them to reply, you're also reducing the time that's gonna take them to reply because they use that app so much. Like I said, the goal is to build long-term relationships within the community. So you should always specify the motive for reaching out. Some creators are more open for new collabs and new opportunities. So you might also mention that like, hey, I would love for you to be on my podcast, or I'm making a blog series on Hashnode. Would you like to be like a guest writer or something like that? Of course, if they have like a lot of followers, you might get a better chance of them replying if you reply to their content instead, especially on Twitter. If you start replying to the content they put out and start interacting with it, they're gonna start recognizing your face, and that's gonna make a better relationship too. Of course, you gotta remember they're also human, they're also a person, so interact with them the same way you will like another human being. It's totally okay. And don't get frustrated if you don't get a reply right away. That's also totally normal. That happens to all of us. And let's see some examples, right? So, in example number one, we can see that it's just a hi and no context is provided. And we really don't know the intentions behind those messages. And we don't really get like an immediate connection with the individual. We have no background on them, and it's just an empty message. Like there is nothing follow up. There is just a hi. Now let's see in comparison to example number two. Here we can immediately get a connection with the individual because they are looking forward to connecting with more developer advocates and learning from them. So we already know what they want from the interaction and what we should look forward in the conversation. They have shared context for reaching out because they were inspired by the profile, and they made their intention pretty clear. So like I said, this also works when you're DMing HR for a job, and this is also something that like to keep in mind when you're looking to collab and to connect with other individuals in the community. And let's go back really here, right? We're trying to see relationships, not just followers. Another tip that I can give you for growing your account, if your account is on X or on Twitter, you should join Twitter Spaces. And this will also help you connect and approach other creators. Why? Because you're already on their territory. So let's just put a simple example. There's a Twitter space or an X space, and one of the speakers is a creator that you will love to know or you will love to collaborate with, or just someone in the industry that you have admiration towards. You see the title of the space, and coincidentally, you have a lot of thoughts about that topic. So you request to speak, and you start interacting directly with that creator and also the community. So it's a win-win, and they can also know your background, they can know about your experiences, and they can personally connect with you. They recognize your voice, they see your picture, and they put a voice behind that picture. So it's really like a really good tip for growing your account on Twitter. Also, another relevant hashtag that you could use is building public. A lot of people use the hashtag are of course building in public, but they also share their wins, they also share their fails, they share screenshots on the things that they're working on. So all of this is gaining inspiration from other creators and helping each other out on how in growing their accounts that way. Of course, this is not very strict, and this is not like a hard science. Just remember to be human and to do things with purpose and enjoy, of course, what you're doing, because people can tell if you're doing something out of a chore or if you're doing it out of heart. Once again, let's go back and see some common blockers that you might be thinking on, right? Like which platform? Again, it's one that you should enjoy. It's one that you should look forward when you wake up in the morning to post on. And do not focus on numbers. Try connecting with people that are going through the same thing as you are, and you're gonna see a huge improvement, not only in your content and your social media presence, but yourself as a human too. You're gonna learn lots on people, and ultimately you're gonna also improve your technical knowledge. All that being said, thank you so much for being here today. I really hope you learned something new. Reach out to me. I'm everywhere. Like I said, this is all about trial and error. So I've been trying stuff. So I'll see you on the next one, and thank you so much for being here.